As you probably heard, New York State broke a record this summer for the most tornadoes since record-keeping started in 1950. 32 tornadoes this summer. The second most was 25 in 1992. So a new record by a lot. What's harder to get a sense of is what a tornado's damage looks and feels like in this part of the world. So we're going to dive into an area north of Warrensburg in the southern Adirondacks that was one of those tornadoes landing down. And the area will never look the same. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Clarkson University, offering over 95 programs of study with campuses in the Hudson Valley, Central, and Northern New York. More at clarkson.edu.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Friday, September 20th. First up, quick correction. On yesterday's show, we remembered SUNY Potsdam geologist and earthquake guy Dr. Frank Rivetta, who died on Sunday. He was 96 years old. And I misspoke and said he was at SUNY Potsdam for 5 years. Of course, that was wrong. He was at SUNY Potsdam for 5 decades. An amazing career and legacy. Sorry about the mistake. Former President Donald Trump says he wants to get rid of the cap on state and local tax deductions, also known as SALT. But as John Campbell reports for the New York Public News Network, he's the one who put the cap there in the first place.
Trump and his fellow Republicans capped the deduction at $10,000. It helped pay for a tax plan that included cuts for the middle class. Now, the former president says he wants to, quote, bring back SALT. He made the statement on social media ahead of a rally at Nassau Coliseum. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says Trump's playing politics.
For Donald Trump to pretend he's found religion on eliminating the SALT caps 2 months before an election, speaking in Long Island, is comical, it's unserious, and it shows the lack of integrity that this man has.
Republicans in suburban swing districts embraced Trump's change of heart. They're hoping it might help them in November. In Albany, I'm John Campbell for the New York Public News Network.
Governor Kathy Hochul signed 2 bills this week that increase reimbursements for ground ambulance services in New York and allow them to store and distribute blood. One of the bills requires Medicaid to reimburse ambulance services when they administer treatment in place. They'll also get paid for transporting patients to non-hospital settings like urgent care clinics and mental health facilities. The other bill authorizes ground ambulances to store and distribute blood. It also allows them to initiate and administer blood transfusions. On July 16th, a tornado ripped through parts of Warrensburg and Chestertown in the southern Adirondacks. It closed roads, including busy State Route 29 towards North Creek. Several areas lost power. Thousands of trees were topped or uprooted. The tornado was one of 32 tornadoes recorded in New York in 2024, the most the state has ever seen. Luckily, there were no injuries. But Warren County residents are still picking up the pieces 2 months later. Amy Feiereisel visited the residential area that got hit the worst. And here's her report.
Brittany Fuller was working when the tornado hit. She's a bartender at the Green Mansions golf course, which is between Warrensburg and Chestertown. She says there are quite a few campsites and RV lots in the area.
It wasn't too busy, but then we started having like an influx of people coming in from like the surrounding campgrounds and stuff.
The sky got dark, there were huge gusts of wind, and it was raining hard.
We have this big tent right out here of these windows, and you could barely see that tent because the rain was coming down so hard, yeah.
Then it was over.
After everything cleared and it brightened up, it was very eerie.
Fuller says there was virtually no damage at the golf course.
But then you walk right down the road and you can literally see like the strip almost where the tornado like went through.
An EF0 tornado had carved a path through the Green Mansions neighborhood, felling thousands of trees in a clear path of destruction. Bruce Harvey's property on Trip Lake Road was right in that path.
Right over here, and you look up on the mountain, it's kind of carved a U out of the mountain. See how it is?
It used to be heavily wooded here.
There was a whole clump of pine trees and white birches mixed in. See what those roots up there?
Yeah. He's pointing to a bare spot.
They were just all went over. Now I got a great big gigantic hole up there.
Trees fell on Harvey's shop and garage. Both roofs were destroyed. He thinks at least 70 trees fell on his land. A local logger has taken down most of them, but Harvey's been out removing brush and limbs himself most days.
This is after 6 weeks of cleanup, so How much more time do you have of cleanup ahead?
I don't know if I got enough time. I don't know.
Many of the homes I drove by have logging equipment or small tractors parked in their yards. There are stacks of trees piled up everywhere. Harvey points out a swath of destruction behind his garage, where a mess of trees, half dead, still hang like a game of pickup sticks.
Like this stuff here, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'd probably just leave it like that. I mean, it looks like crap, but it costs a fortune.
Harvey says he's already spent upwards of $40,000 on tree removal. State Assemblyman Matt Simpson represents this area in the 114th District. He says a lot of homeowners are facing big bills.
It was a really impactful event that I don't think I've seen the likes of it since Irene. And I've seen the damage. It's just incredible.
But as of Tuesday, homeowners can apply for state help for emergency home repair assistance, not covered by insurance.
So the governor just announced up to $50,000 to property owners for damage from those storms in July. I encourage all the property owners that have been negatively impacted to apply for that funding.
The issue is there's a lot more damage around homes. Kevin Garrity is the town of Warrensburg supervisor. He says National Grid has been working hard to clean up around power lines, and the towns have been cleaning up what they can along roads. But there's only so much they can do.
You know, I have a highway crew of 7 or 8 people, and they spent a good month, a solid month up there every day in removing branches and brush.
That's delayed other road work and flood-related damage from other summer storms.
We're just starting to pave now, but put you way behind. And obviously you want to service that area of town, but then you got these other areas that may have suffered water damage or erosion.
Sarah Rayom lives in a condo building in the Green Mansions area. A tree fell on her deck, and they lost power and water for a few days. But she says the whole building got lucky with the tornado passing right by them.
So the closer you get to the beginning of this road, the worse it gets.
She takes me down to the Tripp Beach Road, which runs below the condos, along Tripp Pond and a marsh.
The wooden sign's gone, the metal sign's gone. It just looks so sad. I mean, if there had been houses here, they would have been destroyed.
There are houses above the road, surrounded by big swaths of deforested hillside.
Like how you can see that house?
Yeah.
That was never there before. You can never see up this way. You would never see someone's house.
There are electrical lines piled up in loops on the ground on the main road. And while roads and driveways are clear of debris, there's a lot of dead standing or hanging trees. Rayom says they've been coming down during subsequent storms, even when winds aren't intense.
So every time now that there's a thunderstorm, we get really worried that more trees are going to fall because they're just precariously leaning against things.
We head down a dirt road where there's been very little cleanup. Rayom's teenage son used to spend a lot of time in these woods.
Now I don't want him to go in the woods because the trees are just falling over. And they could just fall on him.
A lot of this is probably never going to get fixed.
Mm-mm.
Life is getting back to normal here, but this landscape is changed forever. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio in Chestertown.
You can see photos of the damage and the cleanup efforts on our website, ncpr.org. We have more news there all the time and through the weekend, ncpr.org. Music today by Lost in Beijing of Keen and Caitlin Scholl of Lake Placid. Have a super duper weekend. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.